It feels like we're living in an era of, well, manufactured chaos, right? You feel it. In the boardroom, sitting in traffic. Maybe it's that quiet anxiety that just follows you home. The world is always pushing on you, and it tells you there are only two ways to push back. Well, in this explainer from the Other Way Martial Consulting, we're here to tell you that's just not true. Let's get into it. So, society basically gives you this false choice. On one hand, you've got the wolf, the whole be aggressive, dominate, crush or be crushed thing. It's the alpha lie, and frankly, it's exhausting. Then, on the other hand, you've got the sheep. Just be nice, accommodate everyone, sacrifice your own boundaries just to keep some kind of fragile peace. That's the victim lie. Basically, you're told you have to be either the predator or the prey. Period.
But look, that's just a false dichotomy. It's a strategic trap designed to limit you. And we reject both of those paths completely. Because there is another way, a third option for anyone who refuses to be boxed in by that kind of limited thinking.
Okay, so to really get this third path, we've got to talk about something we call the combat delusion. See, most self-defense systems, they're selling you a fantasy. They spend all their time preparing you for some super rare physical fight in a dark parking lot. But what about the daily grind, the psychological wear and tear from a manipulative boss, or that social event that just completely drains you? They ignore all of that. They're focusing on completely the wrong threat. Here's a really simple way to think about it. Conventional self-defense is basically like taking Tylenol. It's a reaction, right? The headache is already there and you're just trying to manage the pain. What we're talking about is a true personal safety philosophy. We teach you how to prevent the headache from ever starting. It's about being proactive, not reactive. It's about designing your life, not just doing damage control. And this gets to a core principle, a really important one. If you ever find yourself in a position where you have to throw a punch, your system has already failed. It means you missed all the earlier opportunities, the chances for awareness, for strategic isolation, for de-escalation. Violence isn't some badge of honor. It's not a victory. It is the absolute last, desperate gasp of a strategy that has totally and completely collapsed. So that brings us to the alternative, to that third option. We call it the path of the strategist. It's a complete philosophy for personal safety, and it's called Kyo-Jitsu Ryu, the other way. Kyo-Jitsu Ryu, it literally translates to the other way, and its whole purpose is to operate completely outside of that broken predator versus prey model. This isn't about learning how to fight better. No, it's about making the fight completely irrelevant in the first place. It is a fundamental ground-up shift in your entire mindset. All right, so the foundation of this path is built on 5 core principles. We call them the 5 laws of strategic isolation. Think of it as a real, actionable framework for building and defending your own personal sovereignty. Now, we're going to break down each one of these in a second, but here's a quick overview. First, safety is a design feature. Second, politeness is a tool, not a shackle. Third, everyone has the right to be wrong. Fourth, the mind leads the body. And last, but certainly not least, autonomy above all. All right, law number 1. And this one is a blunt truth, no way around it. Control yourself or something or someone else will. See, personal sovereignty is basically a zero-sum game. If you don't take command of your own emotions, your habits, your boundaries, you create a vacuum. And you better believe external forces will rush in to fill that void. And that leads us to the real goal here, autonomy. Now, this isn't about ego, okay? It's not about dominating other people. It's about creating such a strict sense of internal order that the chaos of the external world, it just can't get in. It's like you're vacuum sealing your own system. You're literally designing your safety from the inside out. Okay, law number 2. We are civil by choice, not by compulsion. This is about taking something that people often see as a weakness, politeness, and turning it into a strategic strength. Look, we're polite because it's advantageous. Being rude just makes you a target. Civility, that lets you de-escalate, it lets you maneuver, it lets you gather information. It's a tool that we choose to use, not some rule we're forced to obey. And let's be crystal clear, we never, ever confuse kindness with submission. Law number 3 is all about managing your ego. Everyone has the right to be wrong. Think about it. That need to win an argument, to correct someone, to, teach them a lesson, that is the fastest way to start a conflict. So we grant other people the right to be wrong. Why? Because our safety is infinitely more valuable than their education. Just let them be wrong. You get to be safe. It's a pretty good trade. Now for Law 4,
Panic is a reaction. Peace is a choice. This really gets to the heart of what we call somatic authority, basically control over your own body and mind. The world is going to scream at you. That's a given. You can't control that. But what you can control is your response. Panic is just a reaction, but peace, that is a conscious choice. We train ourselves to maintain this unshakable internal calm so we can operate effectively right here in the present moment, because that's the only place you actually have any real influence.
And that brings us to our fifth and final law, and this one redefines the whole idea of victory. Winning is getting home safely. That's it. The goal is not to dominate some opponent. It's not about proving a point. The goal is just to get home safely. See, the strategist starts from a place of what we call unwavering stability. If something threatens that stability, we don't look for a fight. We take decisive, intelligent action to get back to that stable state, and then we move on.
Look, at the end of the day, this philosophy, it demands a really high level of personal accountability. This isn't some quick fix. It's not just a collection of techniques you can learn over a weekend. It's a complete way of being. And for that reason, it's definitely not for everyone. So the real question is it for you? And let's be perfectly clear about who this is not for. This path isn't for the person who wants to play the hero. It's not for the person who's looking for validation by winning some physical fight. If your main goal is to win a fight, then honestly, you're on the wrong path entirely.
Now, this path is for a totally different kind of person, a person we call the architect. This is someone who is finally ready to take full, 100% responsibility for their own existence. Someone who is done just reacting to the world and is ready to start operating it. So if you hear that description of the architect and something clicks, if you recognize yourself in that, if you're truly ready to stop reacting and start designing, then the Other Way Martial Consulting does offer mentorship to help guide you on this path. If this framework made sense to you, then go ahead and like this explainer. Make sure you subscribe for more deep dives into this kind of strategy and personal safety. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share it with them. We'd also be interested to read your thoughts, so leave them in the comments below. Thank you for your time and for your attention. This has been The Other Way Martial Consulting.